Good morning, everyone. I'm Officer Truman Fitzgerald with the Birmingham Police Department's Public Information Division. We would like to thank each and everyone for attending this press conference today. From the city of Birmingham, you have our Honorable Mayor, Randall Woodfin, and our Police Chief, Chief Scott Thurman. We're going to bring Chief Thurman up, and he will introduce our other speakers today. Thank you.
So good morning. To my right, I have the Honorable Mayor Randall Woodfin. I have Frank Bearfield, who's the chairman of Crime Stoppers Metro Alabama. I have Maria Davis with FBI Birmingham Field Division, and I have Deputy Chief Jeff Brown over the Investigative Bureau for the Birmingham Police Department. To my left, I have Carlton Peoples, who is the Special Agent in charge of FBI Birmingham Field Office, and I have Assistant Special Agent in charge James DeLoach. So I want to bring a little bit of an update to the mass shooting that occurred in Birmingham on Saturday at approximately 11 p.m. We are still sifting through Crime Stoppers tips. We have received a significant number of those. We encourage the public to continue to share that information with Birmingham Police Department. Our federal partners have been a tremendous help so far in working through a lot of the information and evidence that we have recovered. 12 of the victims that were injured have been released from the hospital. There are still 5 that are currently in the hospital as of today. Our detectives have been out really since this occurred, working through the night and just talking to different people, gathering information. The FBI has offered some additional resources that will be in place later today that will help us connect the dots on some of that information, if you will. We're still receiving some surveillance video and other things as well. So really want to highlight some rewards that have been put in place. And so I'll let those individuals speak about that. So I'll let Special Agent in charge, Carlton Peoples from the FBI, speak about what the FBI has put in place to assist the city of Birmingham in this particular case.
Thank you, Chief, and good morning to everyone. As mentioned earlier, my name is Carlton Peoples. I'm a Special Agent in charge of FBI Birmingham. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims and their families as a result of this senseless act of violence. The FBI will continue to avail resources and assets, whether local, regional, or national, to assist our partners in addressing violent crime in our community. For example, to incentivize the public in coming forward with tips and information to assist law enforcement who are seeking additional information to further an investigation to keep the public safe, the FBI offers monetary rewards. As a result of the mass shooting which occurred in our community this past weekend and the information and investigation to date, the FBI has announced a reward for up to $50,000 for information that to law enforcement, which leads to the arrest and conviction of the individual or individuals responsible for Saturday's mass shooting. If you, I want to repeat that, if you or you know someone who has information about those involved in Saturday's mass shooting, know that you can remain anonymous. Please call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-225-5324, the Birmingham Police Department at 205-254-1764, or Crime Stoppers at 205-254-7777. You can also submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. We will continue focusing on sharing intelligence and investigative resources with our local, state, and federal partners, as well as building effective relationships with the community that we are sworn to protect. And the purpose of that is to ensure that we root out the most violent and heinous individuals that seek to bring violence to our communities and neighborhoods. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Frank Bearfield, Chairman of Crime Stoppers of Metro Alabama. And previous to today, the largest reward we had ever offered was $25,000, which was for the cupcake matter that I'm sure some of you remember that. And we were very glad to pay that reward out. Today, we'll be offering $50,000 for any information that helps us solve this crime. They don't have to be convicted. They don't have to go to court. You don't have to do anything. You remain totally anonymous, And if you give us information that leads to identifying the persons responsible for this or the solving of this crime, you're going to get paid a great reward. It's a life-changing reward, and you're totally anonymous, $50,000.
I want to thank you all for being here with us all this morning. A couple things I want to do. One, I want to start with a thank you. It is a thank you to what this continued effort of partnership. One, to the FBI for not just leaning in with the investigation, but sharing with and presenting to our community additional resources in the form of an actual award up to $50,000 that will lead to an arrest and conviction from the FBI. If you were listening to Frank, I also want to thank Crime Stoppers as well. Theirs has a twist. It is to provide simple information that could lead to an arrest, as well as you can remain anonymous. I want to stress that. You can remain anonymous. It is critically important that as a community we come together in this moment. I'm reminded that standing in this room, I've presented before in front of many of you all, and there was an outpouring. There was not only a collective holding our breath, but I remember community action with the kidnapping of Cupcake McKinney. This requires one of those same type of moments when you have 22 citizens, 22 residents, 22 community members who have been shot in our community, where 4 unfortunately have lost their lives. We, the community, have to step up. That whole village approach that we saw, the unfortunate results, but we saw in real time. We saw the PSAs from the media. We saw community members coming forward, not only with information, but wanting to put on their own cape. This requires one of those moments. Because as a community, we cannot give safe harbor or shelter to people who want to just simply kill people. We can't give them cover. They should not feel safe in our community. They should not feel safe anywhere. And so you've heard it here from 2 of our partners. You can receive up to $100,000 if you have credible information that leads to, one, an arrest, and the other, an actual conviction. It's your time to step up, and we need you. There are a couple other things I want to state. As Chief has mentioned, several of our victims have been discharged. As I mentioned yesterday, this type of incident, this mass shooting, has a heavy toll on community as a whole, but nothing more harmful too than the emotional and physical pain of these actual victims. And so I've had a chance to speak to several of them, including some of their parents. One of our victims was simply in line with his friends, celebrating his birthday. Was September 18th. His mom mentioned to me that they usually go out of town for his birthday, but he decided to celebrate his birthday here. Talked to another victim and her mother. And the mother was as emotional as her daughter as she should be. But a simple request of the emotional toll this has had on her daughter's life, and if there are any available resources for counseling. I want you all to imagine the other 20 victims, where 4 of them, their families have to pick up the pieces because I or their family can't talk to them. And the other victims as well, who are some still in the hospital and some who have been discharged. If there ever was a time for us to come together as a community, this is the moment. But I want to make myself very clear on what the priority is. It is to hunt down, capture, arrest, and convict the people who are responsible for this mass shooting. You see, it's easy to see people in a line who most likely are unarmed, because to enter a club, you can't have a weapon on you. And so on one hand, as heinous as this was, it was also one of the most cowardly things we've also seen. They're cowards. And I think we're at a point where we can take people who don't care about lives, have a reckless disregard for lives, and also adding that they're cowards to do this in the way they did off the streets. And so everyone who wants to play detective on social media, everyone in the streets that's pointing the finger at the police and everyone else, this is your time to step up. And there's an ample award for you doing your part as a community member. Again, a huge thank you to UAB Hospital, St. Vincent Hospital, Brookwood Hospital, and Princeton Hospital, who, as I've stated, and it's worth repeating, do what they do best, which is saving lives. The pain and hurt that existed at some of these waiting rooms, where hundreds of scores of people, family members, waiting in the emergency room lobby area, not knowing which hospital their child was in, wondering the results of their child. None of us should have to live with that. But we can make them whole. Sheriff, come on up, sir. Literally in the middle of this, come on up. Everyone, I'm referring to Sheriff Petway, again, another partner in us helping us address and fight this issue. Other partners that are not present that include our DA, Danny Carr. I want to thank the men and the women you see standing here, and I want to thank all the community members. But I'm looking directly at you as well, media. With the information you've heard today, up to $100,000 in a reward for credible information, please overshare, over-communicate that as a PSA and get this information out. I remember what you did for Cupcake McKinney, and we need that same type of energy from you for these 22 victims. With that, Chief, we'll open it up for questions.
We kindly ask that before you ask your question, just wait to be acknowledged. We're going to make sure everyone has a voice.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, at this point, do you know the identities of the suspects or the persons of interest, or are you still working to figure that out?
Still working to figure that out at this point in time. Carol?
Ms. Gill.
You mentioned yesterday that this was a possible, that the target was intended and that you were working to identify a motive. Have you identified a motive yet? And I know that 2 of the victims had been implicated in previous murders, one acquitted, one dismissed. Do you believe those previous homicides have any bearing on what happened Saturday night?
It could, and there's several multiple motives for the one individual that we believe is targeted. But there again, as you mentioned, you've got several others who there'd be motivation from others to target them as well because of their criminal pasts. So that's just something we're working through.
Was there any small precinct previously in the 5 Point South area? And if so, is that something that will be coming back to the area when it comes to crime?
Years ago, there was a substation, but there again, you have to man the substation. So I have found that a lot of times the substations are ineffective because you just have an officer sitting in there. We need our officers out engaging our community members. And so that's where we feel, and that's what the public wants. The public wants to see our officers, wants to see them out engaging them, doing patrols, not sitting in a building somewhere because they're really not effective. That's more of a behind-the-scenes type thing.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if this is related to any gang activity?
We don't know that. That's one of the things we're working through, just looking at it. I mean, it's something we're looking at, but I can't give you an answer right now.
John?
Officer Fitzgerald, you mentioned this weekend this being an issue of culture, not criminality. Could you expound on that? And if it is an issue of culture, how do you change that and how long does that take?
Well, I just want to echo the words of Chief Thurman. And as we've always stated, as a department, what we're seeing is when individuals get upset with their fellow brother or sister, they choose firearms to settle that argument. And I think culture versus criminality has more to do with what we're seeing is because the first thing people go to when they're upset is the handgun. And that is a culture. And when people ask Chief Thurman for a solution, it's difficult to change the culture. That takes a community, not just the police department.
Thank you.
Chief, can you elaborate on why you believe these suspects were hired to carry out this murder?
There's just motivation from, as Carol mentioned, that some of the individuals that were killed have extensive criminal histories, and because of that, there's oftentimes motivation from others, and there's people who are willing to pay to have them killed, and so that's part of it.
Yes, sir.
Chief, can you talk about the illegal switch and how much of a problem that is for the department?
It is. It's a huge problem. We're looking at whether the switch was used in this particular case, or was this an assault rifle that was fully automatic, or some other type of weapon. Fully automatic weapons do not, as the mayor said, they do not belong on the streets of Birmingham or on the streets of United States of America. And so it's very problematic today. They cause a lot of carnage really, really fast. And so it's just a big problem. We're working with our federal partners, ATF, U.S. Attorney's Office, and others to help make arrests, and they have indicted numerous people. We currently have a campaign called Flip the Switch, and that's where people can call Crime Stoppers, remain anonymous, and give the information about people who possess them or are manufacturing them. We've also spoken with our state representatives about, and they have already pre-filed about having Glock switch legislation at the state level in Alabama. That's something that will be heard in the session that will come up in February of 2025. So we're working towards doing more with that, but law enforcement has to have those tools in place.
And what is your,
Go ahead.
and what is your message to the suspects that are still out there?
We're going to hunt you down and we're going to arrest you, 100%.
Scott?
Chief, last night there was a homicide in South Eastlake community. There was also 2 other people shot. We were told last night that there possibly could be a connection between the mass shooting and that homicide. Do you have any update for us on that front?
So at this point in time, we don't have any information to suggest that it's connected. There were some other factors there in that particular case that we're looking to, but at this point in time, as directly related or retaliation for the mass shooting, no.
Tristan?
Have you been able to interview all the victims? I know you said 5 are still in the hospital. Has that been something you've been able to talk to these individuals?
Well, some of them, because of the condition they're in, they're not able to be interviewed. So that's part of the hard thing that we're trying to work through right now.
Jillian?
I know you said some of these victims had criminal past. Did all 4 dead victims have a criminal past or criminal history?
No, I don't think all 4 did, no.
Miss Amy?
Has your investigation determined which of the 4 victims was the intended target?
I'm not going to release that information at this time.
Yes, sir.
Chief, some citizens are afraid of retaliation. So what is your message to those citizens due to Facebook posts saying that certain members of the community will retaliate because of the mass shooting?
Here's the kind of unfortunate side of it. There were some individuals that we kind of talked about a few minutes ago that had criminal past. If you're not in that criminal game or in that criminal circle, you probably don't have anything to worry about. Just quite, there were some innocent victims we know that were injured at the mass shooting, but the crux of the people who were targeted had criminal histories, and unfortunately, being in that lifestyle, that culture and things, unfortunately, ended in their demise.
Do you think there was 1 targeted victim or 2 targeted victims?
That's something we're working through to determine right now.
Question, does anyone have any questions for our partners who've offered $50,000 in reward money? Yes, sir, Tristan. And just direct your question to either Special Agent in Charge Carlton Peoples or Chairman Frank Bearfield.
Chairman Bearfield, we spoke a little bit, and the mayor said there's been several people that have come forward with tips. Could you highlight any more detail about what y'all have heard, or perhaps even the number, just to showcase how much of a community buy-in there's been on trying to solve this investigation?
Ever since yesterday, there have been a tremendous number of tips, in excess of 50. And we expect more to be coming in. That 50 number is something that I got a few hours ago, so I'm sure there are quite a few more since then. And we're just trying to determine the ones that bear fruit.
Yes, ma'am.
Special Agent Peoples, the FBI, as we talked about earlier, stepped up big time with the cupcake case, and that seemed to work. What does the FBI look at when it offers a substantial reward like this?
I think there's a number of factors that we look at, but right now it's about the impact and the effect that it's having on our communities for everyday citizens. And so we wanted to make sure that we partner in a way that shows that we are serious about our commitment to the city of Birmingham, our local and state and federal partners, and the communities that we're sworn to protect. And this is a way to do that. But it also is just another way. We are involved in our task force, violent crime and gang task force with Birmingham and the local and state and federal partners as well. So this is just another avenue of impact, ensuring that we're all in with our partners.
Scott, and then last questions.
Chief Thurman, last night in 5 Point South, there was a significant police presence. Is there any plans to have police presence there moving forward, and some of the other nightlife entertainment districts like Lakeview or any other areas where we're going to see large crowds gathering on sidewalks in front of bars, restaurants, things like that?
No more than normal. We did have some significant increase in police throughout the summer. That worked pretty well. We've transitioned to some other ways to address that at this point in time. And so no increased. I mean, our officers are always out in those areas anyways because of there's an influx of people going to the bars, the restaurants, the entertainment areas, so no more than normal.
We're seeing similarities in incidences where people are driving up, shooting into idle places. Are we investigating this as maybe possibly one entity, gang-related? Is that something we're looking at?
There's just multiple factors or multiple motives, if you will, and we just have to work through those and determine which is most supported by facts and most viable. And so we just have to work through it. It just takes time. I mean, we're not that far in this investigation. It just takes time to work through this. Even with all hands on deck from all of our partners, it just takes time to go through when you have something of this magnitude to get through everything.
Last question, Ms. Amy.
Do you believe the suspects are still in the area, and what assurances can you give to the public that it's safe to go out to these areas at night?
Well, they're not. Here's the thing. These weren't just people riding around just targeting random people. So there's not people riding around the city of Birmingham just shooting people just to be shooting people. That's not occurring. These were people who were targeted because of some of their involvement in the things they are involved in, the things they do day to day. That's why they were targeted. And that's the bottom line.
But just some clarification on that, I'm sorry, just to be clear, there were 21 people who were shot. So not all 21 people are believed to be linked to the one person that was.
That is correct.
There's collateral damage here.
There is collateral damage. Yes, 100%.
All right, thank you, everyone.